You know, I was doing the things that college grads do in a boom town, you know, partying. Uh, you know, some things I never went, I had a brush with Islam in college. Actually joined the mosque in the summer of 1975, um, and in Temple number 10 under then Donald Shabazz, Izzadin Shabazz.
Mm.
And my mentor was Brother James Muhammad. He passed away, Minister James Muhammad.
Mm.
We went all through South Jersey that summer, selling the Muhammad Speaks newspaper. At that time, it hadn't turned into Balian News at that point. It was Muhammad Speaks. He loved the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And we set up all night. There were some brothers that were out of Philadelphia, Brother Hiram, Brother Jeffrey, and I forget there was a third brother, I forget his name, but these were 5%ers. They were former 5%ers who were in the Philly Temple, but they helped come to Southern Jersey to establish Bridgeton, New Jersey study group or temple.
Mm.
And so we sit up all night, man, drinking black coffee, and they would be ciphering on the lessons and whatnot, man, and listening to Pharoah Saunders, a jazz great Pharoah Saunders. So fast forward, went back to college that sophomore year, 1976, and then I met Minister Farrakhan. Well, let me back up. 1975, the summer of 75, was the then Supreme Minister Wallace D. Muhammad came to Madison Square Garden, his first appearance in New York, and they literally shut down the whole city from the airport all the way to Madison Square Garden for him. That's how strong the Muslims were.
Mm.
And that was the last time Minister Farrakhan, after that, Minister Farrakhan got taken out of New York. I went back to school. I lost track of him. And then in April of 1976, I was on student government, and they brought Minister Farrakhan to Hampton. And I was only Muslim on student government, so I was his escort. I was his security. He stepped off the plane with nobody with him. And I literally freaked out. He said to me, "Brother, calm down. Relax, brother." I was like, he said, "Relax." He said, "Relax, brother." I said, "Yes, sir." I remember us going to a restaurant. You know, it was good college students. They didn't get a chance to get something to eat. So when a guest came to town, we got to take them out to eat. So I ate everything on the menu. They took her to a Chinese restaurant. And I remember Mr. Farr, he was just so humble, man. It was amazing, because I was expecting that fiery Farrakhan that I knew, man. And he was just so humble and so kind. And I remember ordering, I'll never forget, Mugu Gai Pad. And he said, "Brother, you know how to pronounce that, huh?" I said, "Yes, sir, Brother Minister. Sure do. I know how to pronounce it and eat it. Because we used to have mystery meat, you know?" And the lady in the serving line said, "You want gravy, baby? You put something on it, because that meat is green." So put something on it. So he spent 2 days on Hampton's campus, brother. And it was a brother named Michael Smoot. He was out of Chicago. And he had a violin. And Minister Farrakhan was with the students before he gave his speech, just answering questions and meeting with us. Brother walked in. He said, "Brother, what you got there?" He said, "Violin." He said, "Let me see that." Man, I didn't know Mr. Farrakhan played the violin. Brother, he took it, he started playing some Beethoven. Wow. I'm like, wow. He gave a speech that night. He must have talked. I did the welcome. The student government president, Tim Austin, did the introduction, but I was on program for the welcome. And then after that, we walked down the student union. He answered questions for another hour and a half.
Wow. Now,
the last time I saw him before that summer of 75 in New York, or 76 in New York, in fact, at the Apollo Theater, he was trying to get a plane out of Hampton, Virginia, into Landover, Maryland, or into DC, because he wanted to go to the Jimmy Young Muhammad Ali fight.
Mm.
And he just couldn't catch a flight. And everything he tried just wouldn't work. And I remember him telling me, as much as he loved the fight game, he said, "I don't like that crowd that's around Ali, though." Mm. I remember him saying that to me. And then he said, "I wonder why Allah doesn't want me to be there." Mm. And anybody that reviewed that fight, it wasn't a very good fight. Ali was not in shape, and Jimmy Young a lot of people thought that Ali had lost.
Mm.
So anyway, fast forward that summer, the Urban League had a program at the Apollo Theater, and Mr. Farrakhan was the keynote speaker, and I happened to be in New York. And he spoke, and I listened, and then I was outside waiting. He walked out the front door, out the front of the Apollo, and I saw him, and he remembered me. And that touched me because I said, all the people Mr. Farrakhan know, he remembered me. He remembered my name and everything. Oh, my brother from Hampton. How you doing, brother? And that just warmed my heart and endeared me to him even more. So again, I go back to college, after finishing college, back to Jersey, back to Texas, and got married. And then in '84, I'm watching television, and all of a sudden, I see on the CBS Morning News, I see Minister Farrakhan, Brother Mustafa, Brother Haleem, may Allah forever be pleased with him, Ak, standing with the minister with close cuts, bow ties. I said, whoa, wait a minute. And the man, never forget the man, Bill Curtis said, and the Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson is running for the nomination of the president of the Democratic Party. And people would take him seriously, except for this man, Black Muslim leader, Louis Farrakhan. I said, whoa. Wow. And the minister was saying, you know, Brother Jesse is like a man. He's like Joseph. He has a coat of many colors. Come and support him, brothers and sisters. Let's get behind the candidacy of our brother. And I said, whoa. But by that time, man, I was smoking a pack of Newports a day. I never went back to eating pork, though. I was drinking me a quart of Kahlua a week and smoking some some red bud sesame because I didn't like stuff that popped on your clothes and burned your clothes. I was smoking literally an ounce of that a week. At the rate I was going, I'd been dead in about 5 years. So I got involved with the Jesse Jackson campaign. And ironically, my mentors, my political mentors in the city, was a city councilman by the name of Ernest McGowan and his wife, Jewel McGowan. Ernest McGowan was the city councilman of District B, and his wife, Jewel McGowan. Now, Ernest McGowan was a Methodist minister and worked in the post office before he became a city councilman. And he was Brother Khaled's mentor. They sent him down to college there in New Orleans, brother, expecting him to come out and be a Methodist minister. This is ironic, brother. So he was out of Fifth Ward. He was Khaled's mentor.
Wow.
So they were my political mentors. They taught me the ropes. And I worked my way all the way through from the caucus level all the way up to Senatorial District 13, and all the way up to the Texas State Convention. And had I been better known as I am today, they probably would have sent me to San Francisco that year to the political convention. I had no intentions of rejoining the mosque, brother. I was just wanted to help Jesse Jackson because Mr. Farrakhan said help him. So that being said, though, but that's when I ran into the brothers of Miles 45, who had set up an unauthorized cable. And they were selling bean pies, tapes, books, Final Call newspapers. They had no authorization until they got shut down. But that time it was too late. I loaded up and I ran into the brothers. And there were many people who at that time, again, remember the controversy began raging about Minister Farrakhan and the Jews. That thing started heating up. And I found myself, even with a cigarette in my mouth, defending Minister Farrakhan. And those brothers were wondering, man, how does this brother know all this stuff? They didn't know that I had a brush, I call it brush with Islam. The Nation of Islam was no more, but the remnants of it, I got enough of it and enough of the teachings and enough indoctrination that I knew what he was saying out of Muslim lesson number 1, question answer number, lost found Muslim lesson number 1, question answer number 5. Why did we take Jerusalem from the devil? How long ago? And when he said, you know, he's using the name of God when he was accused of calling Judaism God a religion. They said they use his name, Christianity. They use his name to shield their dirty religion. I knew what he was talking about. So I'm there defending him, fighting with the white people and whatnot. And the brothers are looking at me like, who is this cat, man? I got a Newport in my mouth, blowing smoke in their face. Yo, man, let me tell you something about Farrakhan. Y'all don't know nothing about Farrakhan. And he said that. So because I went to the Democratic convention, I worked in the bank. I was a new accounts representative. And they gave me vacation time off, brother. This is how Allah worked. They gave me time off. And what happened was that then the day of the convention, when I was go down there and represent my senatorial district, they called me, told me, you need to come into work. I said, you gave me vacation time. I can't come into work. People depending on me. There's no I don't have no alternates to what I'm supposed to do. Yeah. So they said, okay, well, we'll see you Monday when you come into work. I said, all right. I said, I ain't coming in. So I came into work on Monday and they had a stack of new account cards on my desk. And they said, well, go clear those cards up. And I said, nah, tell me what you going to do. Don't have me work all day and then fire me at 3 o'clock. Y'all must think I'm stupid. So they fired me. They fired me, brother. And because they fired me, I couldn't get unemployment. I had a new baby, of course, my son, Mikhail. I just got married. We had a new car. We had a condominium, man. I was living the Negro middle-class bourgeoisie life. But Allah broke me all the way down, brother. I was so depressed, man. I contemplated suicide, but I knew that if I killed myself, I couldn't get the life insurance, that policy that I had. Wow. So I scrapped that idea. And because we were desperate for money, or I was desperate for money as a man trying to be the maintainer of my family. But the thing that kept me alive, brother, was the fact that the study group or the mosque at that time, which had been broken down from a mosque or temple down to a study group under Brother Jabril after the tragic death of Minister Raymond, the former minister prior to 75 here, was that they had a radio broadcast on KYOK and KCOH. And I used to listen to that broadcast. I used to tape that broadcast and listen to that cassette over and over again while I was driving around all week, trying to find work. It was Minister Farrakhan's voice that kept me alive, kept me sane. Wow. Again. So eventually there was a brother named Carlos Muhammad, and I got to put him on the record because he's the one that fished me in the nation. So any good that I did, I give all praises due to Allah, but the instrument they used was a brother named Carlos Muhammad. He called me up and invited me to the CUNY homes. Now the CUNY homes, of course, is where George Floyd grew up. Wow. Third world, again, I'm just giving you all these nexuses. Where he grew up, and he invited me to a meeting. Minister Farrakhan had just returned from Libya. And he invited me to a meeting to come out and hear the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, which I did. And I joined. I joined right away. And I knew that they searched. Minister Farrakhan said he put his reefer in his hat, man. I left mine in my visor of my car because I knew they searched. And on the way home, I smoked that last doobie, and that was the last time I smoked. But I did join. And then came from there, and it was Brother Carlos and Brother Willie out of Shreveport, who may Allah be pleased with him. He, Brother Carlos, they nurtured me, they nursed me into the mosque. And Brother Charles X. White, wow. They nursed me back into the Nation of Islam, brother. Wow. And those 3 years, we were like vagabonds, man. Eventually, they opened a police substation next to the place where we met in the CUNY homes. So we left from there, and we were like vagabonds, man. We met everywhere. We met in apartments. We met at the YMCA. We met at Texas Southern. We met at the YWCA. We met at Shake Community Center. I mean, we met, everywhere, hotel, ballrooms. We were just nomads in the wilderness. And then we got a place on Brandon Street. I think it's 8431 Brandon Street in the Sunnyside section of Houston. And then the minister came to Houston in June 30th, 1987. And he came to set the mosque up. What happened is that he asked us to write him, all of us to write him about what was going on in the city of Houston. So we did. He read those letters. And you know how we say in English lesson C1, he came to North America by himself. Minister Farrakhan came to Houston, Texas by himself. Man. He got off the plane. He had on a white walking suit like I got on, white patent leather shoes with a briefcase and his travel bag. Now they left me at the hotel, man. They I don't know why they didn't think I knew anything about security, but they left me in the room to secure his suite. Okay, so I was there. He walks through the door and he sees me. He says, "Oh, my brother, that I remember your 19-year-old firebrand from Hampton." As soon as he walked through the door, everybody was like shocked, like, "Whoa, you know him?" Yeah. So we met that night with the laborers and Brother Khalil. I was Robert X. Brother Khalil, no, I was Robert 2X. Brother Khalil was Robert X. And the minister said, "I come to set the mosque up. We're going to pick laborers tonight." And Brother Khalil, at that time, Brother Robert asked the minister, "Well, what is the qualities of a minister?" And he began running it down. And Brother Khalil pointed to me and said, "He should be our minister." He said, "Well, no, brother, I'm going to let the believers choose them," which he did. But in between that, Brother Khalil, like a campaign manager, I didn't ask him to, but he knew the way we soldiered over 3 years together. He knew there was something about me. And as a brother, he went and he lobbied. And the election was held that night. I was chosen the minister. He was chosen the captain as the secretary. And Gloria X Concepcion, may Allah forever be pleased with her, she returned to Allah, was my then chosen assistant captain. So that basically, and I became the student minister here July 1st, 1987.
This is why I went there. So we're going to get to the questions. Here's the first question. Prior to you accepting, if you could give the viewing audience a brief tidbit of your history prior to you accepting Islam.
Yes, sir. Well, interestingly enough, and this is what a lot of people have recently come to realize, beloved, I was born in the Nation of Islam.
See,
wow. That's what's interesting. A lot of people don't know that my last name literally is Islam. I was born with the last name Islam. My mother's last name is Islam. All of my siblings, Islam. And it was Muhammad Mosque number 54, Compton, California, where that was the first mosque that my family was going to. And I learned how to pray, brother. Fajr prayer was the first prayer, of course, that we learned, but I learned that in Arabic long before I knew what I was saying in English. Okay, I was praying 5 times a day, making an ablution. I was praying on the rug with a compass on the rug, all of this. When I was 2, 3, 4 years old, I didn't even know what I was saying. You know, and this is how I was raised in Compton, California. So that's just a piece of it. But as it does happen at times in families who were born in Islam, sometimes the children feel as though they are missing something in the world. So that curiosity pulls you into the world. And so I'd say around the age of 7 or 8 is when we weren't going to the mosque. You know, most of my siblings were older, so they left and they went off in different parts of the country. And my stepfather, who was the one that brought our family into Islam, he was arrested, went to jail. So once the father is removed from the home, that foundation, of course, is somewhat collapsed. And so we all went our separate ways. And I was with my mother. And we ended up going into the Christian church, I say around, I was about maybe 9 or 10. And that was a Baptist church. And that's my father, Reverend Alfredi Johnson. He's the Baptist minister. He became my stepfather. And that's when I went from the mosque into the Christian church. So I went from learning about the Holy Quran to learning the Bible at that point. And it wasn't until about the age of 23 or 24 that it became a full circle where I came back to the mosque. And that was Muhammad Mosque number 27, got back around the brothers, the sisters, you know, the believing family, etc. So that was my process, beloved. And a lot of people didn't know that, but yes, sir. So
sure. One of the first experiences I had was in high school my good friend Chris, who I just spoke to yesterday. We had a good conversation yesterday. He called me out the blue and asked a question, but we caught up very well. We played basketball together. We were teammates, and we were best friends. And we went to go pick him up one night, and he was just late getting dressed. We were going somewhere, probably some party somewhere. And his stepfather, Brother James, who I'll never forget, took that opportunity to put in a VHS tape of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and young Allende. Jean-Baptiste was speaking on the program. The minister was right there. So that was, I think, my first time seeing the minister ever. I may have heard about him before, but never saw him before that moment. And so that was the first time I ever witnessed him. And then when I got to college, my good friend Eugene, Brother Eugene, who had the candy store in his dorm, I found my way to the candy store. And as I was sitting there, he would just play tapes of the minister. And I would listen, and then he just invited me to Savior's Day. I can't say that I was like, oh, I want to join just from listening to the tapes. But when he invited me to Savior's Day 94, I went and was just blown away at looking at the believers. I was still on the unpolished side. So my girlfriend and I did have a bean pie, and I did eat it with my hands in the venue as I was watching Savior's Day 94. So needless to say, I hadn't been polished just yet, and we were still just being teenagers.
Right. And so, and from there, you mentioned in Brother Joshua's interview that you end up going to Atlanta, and what happened as it relates to that and your continuation toward the teachings.
Well, Atlanta is where I saw the Savior's Day for the first time. So that was, I lived in Chicago, went to Morehouse College for Savior's Day. For college, went to Morehouse, Atlanta for college.
Yeah.
And then that's when I got invited. It was the following year because I went down there in 92, fall 92. So the first time in February was 93, but I was a freshman and didn't have any knowledge of the teachings at that point, or wasn't invited out. So it wasn't until my sophomore year in college that I got the invite to come. And so it was in the college experience that I was on this journey, if you will, for consciousness, and it just ended up at the mosque.
And it was interesting that you said that your contact with Brother Wesley.
Right.
And I just like to see you all, hear the story of you all meeting there and seeing how you all are serving. So what do you think about that?
Well, let me say this. Brother Wesley, I just have to say, he was an all-star then. You know, he was a legend then. And back then, there were a lot of ciphers, you know, just on the corner, circle of people, spitting knowledge. And I just have to tell you, Brother Wesley's swagger is well ingrained because he had it then, and we loved it because he never lost a debate.
Wow. And
so we would beam with pride whenever Brother Wesley was around, and people were coming at him, and then would have to just turn around and go back to where they came from, and somebody else would step up and he would deal with them, and they would go back to where they came from. So he was the Nation of Islam Student Association spokesperson when I came into, or was about to come into, the ranks. He graduated, I'm pretty sure, in 94. And so I didn't join until June of 94. So he had already graduated. And the story about that is, the brother who brought me in should have been the Nation of Islam spokesperson, Student Association spokesperson on campus. But I think he just, just wasn't a good fit for his persona. I'll just say that. And so it fell to me to be the spokesperson. I am like 4 months in the nation, and somehow I ended up being the Nation of Islam Student Association spokesperson. And I guess it speaks to some of that nerve I was kind of telling Brother Joshua about, that, just the kind of nerve I just don't have anymore. But nevertheless, I ended up being the spokesperson and taught 2 lectures. And a funny story about that, we hadn't quite figured out the college dynamics yet. So we put a lecture on a Thursday night, which was the Thursday night of the Thanksgiving break. So we rented this hall on campus of 300 seats. There were 6 people in the room. 4 of them were with us. The 2 that came in was because the brother just went out and jacked whoever was walking by the building and said, come in here and sit down and listen to something. And so I taught for an hour and a half in an auditorium of 300 seats with 294 empty seats. Woo. And but it was cool. It was cool. It was cool. I mean, I had security and everything. I mean, we were ready.
That's that. You know, when we come into Islam, we get so caught up and we get so removed from the society, we forget about the devil's holidays, man.
Oh man. So what happened? I finished the lecture and I was walking out, and the brother Eugene said, "Brother Burby, I think you should take some questions." And I was like, okay. So we turn around and come back, and I do a Q&A, man. So that was the first lecture. It was called "Accept Your Own and Be Yourself." And then my second lecture on campus was called "Who is the Devil?" Now, Brother Don Enoch, who now does security for the minister, and Brother Daryl, who is the husband of Sister LaShonda, Sister Nuseba, the student regional MGT captain of the South. They were like my big brothers in the mosque. And one day I told them, I'm teaching a lecture on campus. And they were like, what's the title? It was called "Who is the Devil?" And they were like, so what are you gonna teach y'all? I said, well, I'm gonna teach about how they dropped the bombs on Hiroshima, how they brought in slavery, how this other stuff. I was just gonna go to town on how the white man is the devil, right? And they looked at me like, brother, you might wanna see about adjusting that content, you know, for where you are and what's going on. And so needless to say, I revamped the lecture, and it was the devil within that I taught on. So I thank them for helping me out in my early raucous, no holds barred days.
Wow. And before we go to this next question.
Story, but it's a true story. So since you always like me to keep it real, then I'm gonna keep it real. When I was about 17 years old, I was living a very, as most young men my age, juveniles, living a very thug life. And I had got caught passing bad checks, and they got me for grand larceny. And I was 17 at the time that I've committed the crime, which means I was a juvenile in the state of Ohio. You know, when you don't become an adult till you turn 18, so all your crimes are called juvenile crimes. And so because the day that I went to court, I had turned 18, the judge found it very befitting to sentence me as an adult. But one of the funny things, and I must tell this, you know, you always got these jailhouse lawyers, all these brothers in the street tell you, man, did you do this? The judge gonna do this if you do this.
Yeah.
So one of the brothers told me, he said, listen, man, if you get up there and you get a chance to speak before the judge sentence you, then she may be lenient. What you need to do is tell her that you want to go to the service and to the army to serve your country. And so I'm taking this advice, so I get into court, and so the judge was getting ready to pronounce sentence. Excuse me, Judge, can I say something? And he said, yes, sir. I said, Judge, you know, I would like, if I given an opportunity to go and serve my country and enlist into the military. So the judge said, well, that's very favorable of you. He said, I tell you what, I'm gonna give you 30 days to enlist. And if you don't enlist in 30 days, then I remand you back to the court and pronounce this 30-day sentence on you. And when the judge said 30 days, I said, man, that's all he's gonna give me was 30 days. I think he's gonna give me 3 years. I said, I'm getting ready to go to the Army for 3 years and not serve 30 days. So I left out of there, and I knew I wasn't gonna go to the service. And I gagged around to the 30 days where I went back to the court. And the judge said, listen, young man, since this is your first adult crime, I'm gonna let you taste a little bit what our new county jail like. So, you know, okay, all right, I'm trying to be hard as nails. They take me to this county jail. It looked like that sheriff just put his key in the wall and the whole wall opened up. And I looked in there, looked like a big old vault. And it was all these 3-man cells, 7-man cells. It looked like brothers was caged in there. So they put me in the 7-man cell. I walked in, you know, young jitterbug, trying to be hard, right? Mm-hmm. There was a Muslim brother in there. And I never forget, he was laying on the top bunk, he was reading something. The other brothers was over there playing some Tonka, playing cards. So I walked in, he looked at me, you know. So as soon as I walked in, the Muslim brother, he said, brother, have you ever heard of the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad? And being the ignorant Negro that I was, I said something, man, to this day, I don't even like to tell you what I said. But I said, man, I heard that MF don't do nothing but take you niggas' money. Lord, what did I say that for? That Muslim brother jumped up off that bunk. He grabbed me and he put his forearm underneath my neck and pinned me against the bars. He said, look here, little young nigga. You're going to respect him, and you're going to respect me. I said, yeah, okay, baby, all right, brother, okay. So he let me go. So the other brothers sitting over there playing cards, they looking at me like, yep, young boy that really tore his behind. So, you know, I'm over there minding my business all this time, looking at my man, you know? So about dinner time came. And when dinner time came, they had served us, and I never forget that meal. They served us a bowl of potato soup, a cheese sandwich, and a bologna sandwich. So I'm looking, you know, then I see the Muslim brother, he goes over to the toilet and he flushed the bologna sandwich down the toilet. So I'm thinking, well, man, he just don't like bologna, right? Right. So I go over there and tell the brother, I said, listen, brother, you know, next time, you know, you give me your bologna sandwich, I give you my cheese sandwich, and I think that's a fair exchange. Now the brother's over there eating to my right, he looking at me like, oh no, he didn't do that. And so the Muslim brother said, look here, young brother, I would not give you nothing that I would not eat myself. And I looked at him, I said, this is the same dude that tried to choke me out, but he's concerned about my health. Now I got a little confused at that point, right? So all that day, man, I'm thinking, you know, it got into the night, everybody's resting, he's still reading. So I go over there and I said, excuse me, brother, man, forgive me for what I said, man, and tell me something about that man, Mr. Elijah Muhammad. Wow. And for the first 15 days, I didn't do the whole 30, I did 15 days to let me out. But every day, that brother, I never forget him, may God be pleased, his name was Brother Harris. He taught me. And when I got to the last day of me being in there, I had a great love for Islam. I was a Muslim. And I promised him that, you know, when I get out, I would go to the temple. He said, brother, please, you promise me? I said, yes, sir, brother, I promise. I left up out of that correction facility. And of course, you know, I meant well in my promise, but just like all Negroes, you know, I went back to business as usual. But I got into a situation where me and another brother, man, I don't know if y'all want to hear. This is crazy. Yeah, this you want to hear it, brother? Gotta hear it, man. So anyway, I got with an old friend of mine. We took some acid, right? Some orange sunshine. I had what you call at that time, it was called California curls. It was a process, basically a process, but I had a very long hairy head, long, you know, a lot of hair. I mean, And I mean, we used to take great pride when we go to the place and get our hair, we call it get it busted. And God bless me, man, that, you know, when men get their hair done, they really put an extra emphasis, probably more than women. But I used to get my hair done and women be envy looking at my hair. Well, anyway, so I was on a trip, man. So I took this Orange Sunshine. It's on a Friday, right? I'm tripping. I'm really, really tripping. And so I'm at home, man, and on Friday, my man normally come pick me up and we go over here to this place called Sandy's burger shop. And, you know, that's where all the cars and ladies and, you know, everybody styling and profiling, right? We do that every Friday. So I'm getting ready, man. I'm tripping, right? So I'm getting ready. I need to take a shower. So I'm sitting there saying, man, if I take a shower, I'm gonna mess my hair up. My sister wanted to go roll it. It was too late. So I said, I tell you what I'm gonna take a bird bath, right? Everybody knows the bird bath, get things, you know. But then as I'm taking this bird bath, right, I'm looking at the man, and the man talking back to me. So I'm talking to me, right? Tripping. Yeah. So the man said, look at you. You stink, you need to wash your behind, but you so concerned about how you look at that hair. If you for real, cut it off. I don't know, just happen to be a pair of scissors right next beside me, right? I'm challenging myself. I ain't scared. Cut it off then. So I grabbed a big patch of it and I clipped it off. And I knew it was too late. Then I started clipping. And as I kept clipping the hair, I feeling free, right? And I'm like, man, this hair was a bug and it's costing me. I really didn't like it. I was doing it because of the compliments. And so I jumped in the shower and I feel like I was reborn again. Yeah. But little did I know I didn't do a thorough job in cutting this stuff off because I'm tripping, right? I got patches here, patches there. So I never forget, brother. I went down the steps. My man, he blowing his horn. I see my mother, she's sitting on the couch. She said, oh, boy, lost his mind. So I go, I say, bye. I runs out there. Now, my man had a cold-blooded, everybody used to know, man, the LS-98s back in the day, they was the bomb. I jumps in his car. He had a black on, black and we. When I jump in the car, he looks at me, right? Right. Hey, you all right? Now, I'm not knowing, man. I got patches. I'm looking crazy as a whole outdoors. I said, yeah, man, let's go. So he looks at me like, yeah, okay, man. So we drive over to the spot. So he kind of concerned about my mental state of being, right? So here come the ladies, man. They come over to the car, you know, and I ain't never had no problem with no women at that time, you know what I'm saying? So, but they go on his side, one of the girls, they're on his side, look at this, she looks over at me, so she says, what's wrong with your boy over there, you know? He said, he'd be okay. So lo and behold, who's coming, selling the Muhammad Speaks to everybody in the crowd was our local minister here in Columbus, our Minister Donnell. He's selling the Muhammad Speak. So he comes over to the car and he says, Muhammad Speak, brother. That's when it hit me that I made a promise to the brother in the joint that I would go to the temple, right? I said, hey, my man, where the temple at? Where the temple at? He said, brother, it's right down the street. I said, man, y'all got to meet? He said, yeah, now this is on a Friday. You know, back in the day on Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you didn't have a packed house on Friday. Matter of fact, the minister that normally teach on Friday was that minister that the local minister let him teach that much. This was his opportunity to teach. Right. I never forget the brother, may God be pleased, name was Brother Minister Stanley. I don't think Brother Minister Stanley converted nobody in his life but me. Well, anyway, so I get up and I tell my man, I said, yo, man, I'm gone, man. I'll check with you later on. So he was so happy I got out of this car. I know my man was happy. I'm walking with Minister Donnell down to the temple. That's what it was called at the time, the temple. I get up there on the front row, man. He got me, ain't too many people in there. And so this brother, Minister Stanley, he looking at me. So he said, okay, there's a fish right here. So he started teaching. I couldn't wait to raise my hand to join. I don't even, if you ask me, do I remember what the subject was? No, I don't remember the subject. So I raised my hand and I joined, right? And so I accepted, he shook my hand. So they took me downstairs. Now I was still kind of tripping, right? And one of the brothers, never forget, these names are very important to me because I got to give him an honorable mention. His name was Brother Charles. He wound up being the imam down here at the local mosque. But Brother Charles was a brother, and I never forget, he said, brother, you like a cup of coffee? And that's when we was making an egg coffee, right? I said, yeah, now you can smell the coffee all the way outdoors. That's the way the Muslims' coffee was. He gave me a cup of coffee and a slice of bean pie for my first time. Brother, when I drunk that egg coffee, man, it sobered me up. I just left. Now, next thing I know, I'm sober as a judge, right? Pie, so now I'm walking home, right? I'm walking home. I'm filling my head. I'm trying to recall what happened. You know, I'm trying to do playback. What happened, man? I'm walking. So sure enough, I get halfway to where I hang out with the fellas, and there was my whole crew, man. They looking at me. Yo, man, what's up, man? How you doing, man? I said, yeah, man. I'm with the Muslims now, man. I'm with the Muslims. I'm a Muslim. So they said, so two of the dudes, they was my homies. They had just got their hair done, man. I'm looking at their hairs glistening, and oh, man. They said, oh, okay. Yeah, man, you look good. But we get ready to go get high. We see you later on. So, man, I'm walking home, man. That was the longest walk, like a 3 mile, man. Dead man walking. I finally get home sitting on the porch, man. I said, man, how did I go from getting high early today? Now I'm a Muslim. So, okay, it is what it is. So later on that night, here come my 2 guys. They had got their head, they got a little high. So they were standing downstairs, in front of my porch. And so one of them said to me, you know, because I'm fine up cleaning my head up. One of them said to me, he said, yo, man, you look good, man. You know what? I'm cutting my stuff off tomorrow. I'm going to join the Muslim with you. Man, you know, misery loves come. I said, yeah, man, cut all that stuff off, man. You look like the white man with all that hair, man. The next day, both of them, man, God is my witness, man. They cut their stuff off. That was on a Saturday. That Sunday, I got an old suit from my brother. I was so happy. I went to the mosque. And I never forget Minister Wali, who was our local man. Minister Wali, let me tell you, Minister Wali was the brother who married Minister Farrakhan's daughter, Sister Donna. Sister Donna was our first lady right here in Columbus, Ohio.
Wow. And
Minister Wali is the son of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's brother, John Muhammad out of Detroit.
Wow.
And so, you know, so we had some holy blood up here in Columbus, Ohio. We had Minister Farrakhan's daughter, and we had the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's nephew. I joined the nation, brother, and let me tell you, so me and my 2 partners, oh, man, what day we.
Yes, absolutely. So one of my foster mothers, she was very, very, very active in the community. She, activism was her thing. So when she would go do these protests here in Houston, she would bring me with her. So I was like 13, 14 years of age, and I'm, no justice, no peace. And so I've always had this bent on, freedom, justice, and equality and fighting. If you knew me back then, they used to call me Mike Tyson, because if somebody was being bullied, I would be the one that they would ask to go fight the person. And I had no qualms about it. I was in middle school, and it might have been a high schooler, but I did not like the fact that people were being bullied. And so activism was really, really strong in my life coming up. And my mother told me that we were going to go to see this man speak. I was about 15 years old. And so I didn't know anything about Minister Louis Farrakhan. I just knew that she said, we're going to go hear a powerful man speak. So when we come up to the event at the Coliseum in 1990, and I just remember the first thing that I saw was the MGT, the mighty MGT. And they were beautiful in their garments, but they were regal, they were strong. It was just something about the regalness that struck me about these women. And there was on check post checking us. And I remember that. And the Coliseum is not like a lightweight place. It's like a huge facility of tens and thousands of seats. And so when I go in, we just see lines and lines of people. And I'm like, who is this Black man? Who is this man that we're about to see? And I remember, I don't know how we got some good tickets, but I remember being on the floor close to the front. And I heard the speakers come and talk about this Black man and getting the crowd ready in anticipation. And then this beautiful Black man came out. And I just remember being mesmerized. It was like I had this lock that needed the master code to unlock it, or this antenna. I became tuned into this man, and it was just something about him that mesmerized me. And I remember remembering his words like years to pass. I remember, him talking about his mother and how she tried to abort him, but there was something special about him for the Black people. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I thank Allah, because after it was over, here I'm a high school student, knee deep into the church, or eyeball deep into the church, with all of these posts as a youth president of our YPD department. And I kept thinking about Minister Louis Farrakhan in the Nation of Islam. And it just so happens that same year, when school started in the fall, I was taking AP English. And my white teacher, Miss Greeny, I'll never forget, she wanted her class to be sympathetic to the Black plight. So it was only 2 Black people in the class. So she made a decision to have us read the autobiography of Malcolm X by Alex Haley.
Wow.
Now that I heard the minister and I saw this beautiful Black man, I got to read about the Nation of Islam and our brother's journey in the Nation of Islam. So it only made me fall in love even more. But because I was in the church, I was tremendously torn. So I have a cousin who her friends were in the mosque here in Houston, and they were going to a Friday night study group. And so we were trying to sneak off, trying to figure out ways how to go to the study group while going to Wednesday night Bible study. And, at that moment, I started studying more about apartheid. I started studying more about our history as Black people in the struggle. But the whole time, like, my heart and my mind was looking towards, our Jesus. And I was torn between Christianity. But now I know that to be a good Christian is to be a good Muslim. And I went to seminary school. I'm a seminary dropout. I'm gonna be honest. It took a lot to get into seminary school. It was like going to law school. It was a 3-year program. And my first year in seminary school, I did very well. And I was in a preaching class. And I didn't realize that as a Southern Baptist seminary school, women were not allowed to preach. Men, we could do Sunday school with the teacher, but there was a mistake on my schedule, and they put me in a class with the men.
Wow.
So, only female in the class. And I did the theoretical. And then when it was time for me to do the actual lab, I had favor with the professor. For some reason, he liked me. And I don't know, he didn't get the memo either, or he just decided he was just going to ignore the memo. And it was at that time when I took this practical class, that my classmates decided that they were going to boycott me if I was allowed to get up and do my sermon. And I never forget, that morning that it was time for me to do my sermon, and I was ready and I was nervous, and it was who was going to minister to the minister. That was what it was going to be about. And Elijah under the juniper tree.
Wow.
And my professor calls me and he says, Sadiyah, unfortunately, I made a mistake and I'm going to give you an A, but you can't come to class and deliver your sermon. And I was gut punched. But I was mad at the same time. And, I acquiesced, but the anger started, filling up in me, because I was like, how can you do this? How can you, discriminate against us when, again, the woman at the well, she was the one who, told about a man named Jesus and gave the gospel. And then, I thought about the women at the feet of Jesus who, when Jesus was on the cross, went and gave a testimony and gave a gospel. And so I was just thinking of all of these opportunities, but at the same time, I was kind of like sneaking, studying the teachers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. That's exactly what I was doing. I was, befriending some of the believers. I was involved in community activism. So of course, we as believers, the Muslims, we're always at the forefront of what's going on. And so, you know, at that time, you know, Allah was working on me. But what the last straw was they had a class for Islam to teach us about Islam, but it wasn't in a way of bringing uniting us, but it was a way to show the quote unquote heathenism and the blasphemy and, you know, just all the negative aspects about Islam. And then at that point, I made a decision to drop out. And at, you know, during that time, I was working in politics. City of Houston, I was a chief of staff, and our local minister here, Southwest Regional Minister, Brother Abdul Haleem Muhammad, you know, he was always on the forefront of whatever was going on in the city of Houston. And I remember him coming to this big gathering after 9/11 that I had organized with all the federal departments. And he came and he stood up and all the brothers stood up and he just spoke a mighty word. And the congresswoman said, come to the front stage, brother. His name was Brother Robert at the time. Brother Robert, come to the front stage, and just hearing him. And so later on, and this is how you know the hand of God was on me, is I would see Brother Abdul Haleem come to the city of Houston, and I would like whisper to him, ask him questions about Islam, while I had one foot in the church, but one foot in the teachings. And I was trying to get my nerve. I don't know. I didn't want to disappoint people. You know, I was becoming a leader in the church, but my leaning was always towards Islam and these teachings and listening to Minister Louis Farrakhan. And so one day I asked Brother Abdul Haleem, how do you become a Muslim? He said, it's really easy. You have to believe that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is his messenger. And he said, accept your own and be yourself. I said, is that it? He said, yes. And so one day I just made that decision. And my life has totally changed 180 degrees because I made that I took the life-giving water. I took the life-giving water, I accepted it, and I decided that I wanted to follow a man, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who has helped his teacher and Master Fard Muhammad raise many people from the dead. And I wanted to be one of those helpers. You still there?
Oh, yes, sir. No, we good. Yes, sir. So basically, brother, you know, I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, a little village called Phoenix, Illinois. And, you know, went to high school, you know, local high school, Thorn Ridge High School. And then I went to Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, straight 85 all the way, you know, but I had some serious conversations with my grandparents, you know, about their struggles in the South and, you know, slavery and, you know, Massa Charlie and all of that. So I was really equipped, you know, to, you know, understand some measures of the you know, the oppressor and, you know, some of the things that, you know, our people have been faced with. And so
Your sound went out.
What about now?
I get you back. You saying I got you back now.
My second year in college, and I was doing some real devious things, and you know, I was getting ready to get, you know, put out, and a brother that was the dean. Pardon me 1 second. So I'm like, I'm gonna just park over here and finish this Zoom meeting. Is that all right, Bub Michael? Oh, well, I'll just go to the side. I'll go to the side. Okay, thank you, God. Yes, Assalamu alaikum. So, yes, sir, I was getting ready to get kicked out, brother minister, and it just happened to be a brother that was over the administrative hearings and things, and he said, I'm not going to kick you out of school, brother. I'm going to make you join this book club. And that's probably, you know, the beginning of what saved my life and led me to Islam. So, but of course, I didn't read anything dealing with Islam. I read books like Wretched of the Earth by Frantz Fanon, and books on, you know, Bobby Seale and some of the Panthers, and you know, just kind of began waking up my conscience about, you know, the struggle and the plight of our people. And then I had a roommate who had the Supreme Wisdom magazine, not the 120 lessons, but the Supreme Wisdom magazine with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad on the cover. I didn't know what it was, you know. It would just be in the room. And he also had the autobiography of Malcolm X, which I hadn't read yet, but heard so much about. So I read the autobiography of Malcolm X while, you know, in college with him. And that's when my life changed and the third eye opened. And I began to see a world totally in a totally different way. And so I wound up getting kicked out of college anyway, brother, and academically suspended at least. Wow. And then, and so I'm at home now and I'm really in a depression. And, you know, man, I dedicated my life to smoking weed every day, and, you know, and that's what I was just going to do. And so then I brought this magazine back home to me. I just packed it up, still never cracked it, never opened it up, brother. And then I started, of course, because now I'm on a quest for knowledge. I studied a little bit of the Hebrew Israelites. I read Ben Ami's book, God, the Black Man in Truth. That's what led me to begin to change my diet. And then I was dating a sister, a young lady who's passed away now, named Melanie. May Allah be pleased with her. And so I had to go to court. And I went downtown Chicago to traffic court, and I'm standing in line waiting to pay for a ticket. And I saw a sister there who was reading a book, and the title of that book struck me. And it was the Fall of America, the blue book, the blue cover book, Fall of America by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the title, like I said, struck me. So I excused myself and asked the sister, you know, can I check that book out? Where did she get it from? And she let me check the book out, and I started skimming through the pages. And of course, just a paragraph coming from the messenger is alarming. So, you know, it caught my attention, and, you know, I was like, wow, blown away. She took care of her business, got ready to leave. So she let me hold on to the book until she finished. And then I was getting ready to give it back to her. And the sister said, well, brother, if you're going to read the book, you can have it. My eyes got big, and I was like, really? And she was like, yes, sir. But if you're not going to read it, brother, give me my book back. And I said, no, sister, I'm going to read it. You know, I wasn't saying ma'am and stuff there. I was like, no, sister, I'm going to read it. And so she said, okay, brother. To this day, brother, Minister Willie, I don't know who that sister was, and never seen her again in my life.
Wow.
But that's what began my journey to the Nation of Islam. Now I go back home and open up this little magazine, the Supreme Wisdom, and start looking in that. And so I told my girlfriend at the time, hey, you know, I'm studying this Islam right now, you know, and she really didn't have no parts of it. She didn't want nothing to do with it. And so Easter Sunday, 1994, no, I'm sorry. We went to Savior's Day, 94, UIC Pavilion in Chicago. This was the Savior's Day. Some of the believers that's on may remember, where the minister had graced the cover of Time magazine. Ministry of Rage was the heading. And so we went to that Savior's Day, brother, and it was over. I had made up in my mind, and I was determined that I was going to be a member of the Nation of Islam. It was funny because when we went in through the check procedure, the sister and I got disconnected. And so I ended up being able to tune in to the lecture without any distraction. And when we left, we had two totally different reactions about what we had just heard and witnessed. And so I kind of knew where that was going to wind up. So then following, I didn't go back to the mosque after that, brother minister. April of that year, Easter Sunday, I said I was going to go to the mosque. I didn't want to do nothing traditional in terms of Easter. Had no idea the minister was speaking. The minister was speaking the crucifixion of Jesus. Oh my God, it was over. I joined.
Wow.
Well, there's not much. I was 9 years old when I came in the door of the mosque and decided that I wanted to be a follower of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So before my Islam, there was a little Bugs Bunny, a little Little League baseball, a couple of games of marbles, and that was it.
Wow.
After that was Islam. So
from the age of 9 until today, my intention has been to be a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in the Nation of Islam. It may not have been always as easy as it seems to say it, but certainly that's been my intention since that day at Mosque number 5 in Cincinnati, Ohio, the city where I was physically born and the city where I heard the teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, thanks to the agency of my dear brother, who has gone on and departed now. He is Brother Wilbur E.X. Berry.
Wow.
The brother known as Brother Martin in Cincinnati, Ohio. But he brought me to the mosque, and I heard Minister David teach on the black man's history, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Wow. So that's amazing, man. I think as far as my experience, I don't know anybody that I've talked to that was that young. So right now you got the record. You're at 9 years of age. So we know that in the nation is a certain period where a certain age you have to be before you get registered. So talk about when you actually made the process to begin registering.
Well, there were some key historic events that happened between that day in 1969 when I came in the mosque at 9 and the day when I was able to register as an adult follower of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. The nation transitioned at the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1975. I was, like everybody else, just returned to whatever else I used to do in the living of a life of an average Negro in America. I finished high school and applied and attended and was matriculated at Howard University in Washington, D.C. Then where my second year as a sophomore, one day walking across campus, I heard applause coming out of our legendary Crampton Auditorium. I looked over at the building and the billboard said, Minister Louis Farrakhan. I said, oh. So I ran inside. This was on September 27th, 1978. And that's the date that is on my NOI Believer's ID card, September 27th, 1978.
So you're coming up to an anniversary soon, man.
Yes, sir. In a couple of months, I'll start my 43rd year as a follower of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad with Minister Farrakhan on this side of the rebuilding.